What's up, New Hope family? Welcome to episode 22 of the show with no name. My name is David. Very glad that you've joined us today. With me, as always, Pastor Leo.
¿Cómo está, everyone?
Hello, Pastor Leo.
Hello, hello.
We don't have any terrifying chocolate chicken concoctions today.
I do. No, I'm
no.
kidding.
So we won't be doing that, but it is nice to be with you, as always. How have you been since our last episode, Leo? We just recorded it.
Yeah,
guys.
we just recorded, so my throat is still burning from that
right?
pepper.
Man. Again, I didn't hate the first bite. There was like the little aftertaste of the pepper, or not even after feel of the pepper, but I was okay with it. But man, that second one got that giant chunk of pepper. That was not it for me.
Just be thankful it wasn't a giant piece of chicken in that chocolate.
That's fair. Okay, yes. Gross. That sounds terrifying.
Right.
I don't even know how would you do that and not die from just chicken sitting around in a chocolate bar? Maybe it'd have to be like refrigerated chocolate.
I guess, yeah.
Keep the chicken good.
Yeah, dehydrated.
Dehydrated chocolate. Do they make chicken jerky? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I've had turkey jerkies.
Yep, turkey jerky's a thing.
I don't think I've ever seen chicken jerky.
Huh.
Let us know in the chat if chicken jerky exists. What's the weirdest type of jerky you've ever eaten, Leo?
What was that? Bison?
Bison jerky? How was that? I've never had bison jerky.
It's
It's
dry and chewy.
Because I've had bison burgers, which are very good. I don't think it's 100% bison. I think they probably blend it with ground beef, but those are delicious.
Yep.
So I would hope
but
that the jerky was good, but maybe not.
The bison meat is leaner compared to beef.
Sure.
So when you turn it into jerky, it's just a little bit tougher.
A lot. Yeah.
So
I've had kangaroo jerky.
Oh, okay.
That was pretty good.
Those.
There was a jerky place in Oklahoma City when we lived down there that I went to a couple times, and they had like every weird. I had kangaroo jerky in Australia, but they had kangaroo jerky there. But they had like animals you wouldn't even think were allowed to eat made into jerky. It seemed like, and I chickened out of eating most of them. I forget what it was called, but it was kind of right by this really cool little food truck place that they had. Oklahoma City's broken up into districts. Okay. I mean, most cities are, but they're like really, really identified. These areas, they like look different. They feel different. Each district is really, really unique. And in this one district, it was the Blue Garden, I think, but blue spelled like the annoying way, like blue cheese or whatever, like BLEU.
Okay.
Calm down, French people. Sorry to any French people listening. But the Blue Garden, it was just this big area with like tons of tables. There were like bars and stuff in there as well, and like lawn games. But then there were places for like 8 food trucks to park. And so they would just rotate different food trucks through there. And so you could just go and you could always see what food trucks were going to be there. It was a really cool spot. But yeah, like just, a block away from there was this like a little jerky spot. And it was pretty cool. I like jerky.
Still no chicken jerky there?
I don't remember. Like, that's the weird thing. I remember, like, I think there was emu jerky.
Okay.
There
like
was
llama jerky, something like that?
There probably was. I don't remember all of them. We could probably find it and go on the website. But I don't remember seeing chicken jerky. But I don't feel like it would have stood out. Like, it might have existed there.
It might have.
But who cares about chicken jerky when there's all these weird, things
true.
on the wall? So,
That's true.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to do some research. Let us know in the chat if
the weirdest
in the
thing
comments.
I have tried.
Balut jerky.
No, it's sea snake.
Ugh, gross.
Yeah. Not jerky, but
I don't care.
Somebody
I don't care
cooked.
how you eat it.
I was in one of the provinces in the Philippines, and somebody caught a sea snake, and then
How was it?
It was spiny. like there's a lot of bones.
Yeah.
But the meat was okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
What did it?
I didn't try it, but they were drinking the blood.
Ugh.
So, yeah. That was, I drew the line there, but
Yeah.
they made me try it.
Have you ever had blood sausage?
Yep.
Okay. Because that's the same thing. But it just sounds more palatable.
But we also have that dish in the Philippines made of pork blood.
Okay.
But it's like dried
Yeah.
like kind of thing. But
It's not a beverage.
it's not a. But they were drinking it. It was like red.
That seems more aggressive.
Yep.
You know, than like mixing it with other stuff to turn it into a
So
food product.
that I drew the line there. But yeah, I did try the.
Did it taste like seafoody or
No, they turned it into adobo. Interestingly,
sea snake adobo?
yes.
All right. I'm more interested now.
But yeah, it was weird.
Well, let's. Speaking of eating weird stuff,
And speaking of jerk,
and jerks. Samson, who just eats honey out of a carcass of a lion that he murdered with his bare hands.
True.
Let's talk about him. Okay, if you haven't read yet and you need a reminder, today we're in Judges 15 and 16. So pause us real quick, read those 2 chapters. We're going to finish up the story of Samson.
yes.
So, Pastor Leah, would you give us our summary of these?
Okay. So for this one, just a very short summary. Many people think they can use God to get what they want. Yeah. But God is not a means to an end. So, yeah.
That sounds ominous.
Very, very.
I mean, obviously, if you've read, you see what's coming.
Yep.
But
that's true.
all right, so we saw Samson sort of being a meathead a bit in chapter 14, like easily manipulated,
That's
particularly by a beautiful woman,
Mm-hmm.
and the Philistines in general. And we start kind of pick back up there with manipulation land.
Yay.
What are our lessons in chapter 15 as we watch Samson first be manipulated and then do some killing?
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, many people like Samson's story because it's a tale of revenge, and people love movies and TV shows about revenge. We see this theme in this chapter. So Samson's,
To clarify, he's great at it.
he's great at it.
Like we joke
As a
about him being
jock.
like a jock or a meathead, but like he's pretty inventive with how he gets his revenge. Now,
That's
first
true.
of all, I wanted to say this last week. Couldn't he have just killed the 30 guys that he made the bet with, rather than 30 just random dudes that had nothing to do with it? Either way, your debt is paid.
Right.
But whatever. but like he's pretty clever with how he gets revenge. It's kind of impressive.
You see that? Did you see that remake of that movie Bedazzled? With
I did not.
Brendan
No.
Fraser.
No, I did not.
Yeah, there
I'm
was
aware of it, but I didn't see it.
there was a part there where he became a jock,
Okay.
and then it was like this reminds me of him. So, yeah. But anyway, okay. So Samson's attempts for reconciliation went nowhere when he learned that his wife had been given to another man.
Yeah.
So
Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking. He didn't like that.
But here's the thing, Leviticus, and I don't know if this was the reason why, but there's a command in Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 18 that commands them, like the Israelites, do not take your wife's sister as a rival wife and have sexual relations with her while your wife is living. But he does reject the offer of her younger sister.
Yeah. Which, by how much does the dad suck?
Right.
Like, obviously he's doing this, but then he's like, the younger one's way prettier than the ugly older one that you were going to be stuck with. Like, what kind of dad says that?
That's
An
true.
Old Testament dad.
It's an Old Testament dad. So he didn't accept it. It was unacceptable for him. So Samson decides to get even creatively
Yeah.
by torching their grain fields.
The poor foxes.
I
Like, they didn't
know,
do
right?
anything wrong.
That's
You could
true.
have just thrown torches around.
That's true. But yeah, he used
pretty good.
foxes,
That's pretty good.
causing massive destruction. So points for creativity on this one.
Yeah, he got a little extra.
But yeah, because our theme is revenge, so in retaliation, the Philistines burned the woman and her father to death.
Yeah.
Yay.
Cool. Yeah,
Happy.
you can see the scale of the conflict growing. And so the Philistines have been oppressing Israel for 40 years.
Yes.
Certainly numerous Israelites by this point in time had intermarried with Philistines. probably a lot more women. The Philistines were like, basically did what Samson did. Like, that one's attractive. I want that one. And when you're the one in power at this point in time, you were able to do that kind of thing.
It's good to be the king.
Yeah. So there were probably family conflicts at, in the small areas.
Yeah.
But yeah, once he torches like massive amounts of crops, which are necessary for feeding large amounts of people, it becomes a lot bigger and people get burned to death.
That's true.
Which is not a great way to go. Although those foxes experienced that as well, I would imagine.
But wait, there's more.
Oh, good.
Yay.
Great.
Happy, happy, joy, joy.
Yeah.
Their revenge on his wife further angered Samson. So, again, retaliation is the theme.
We need to jump back real quick.
Mm-hmm.
He caught 300 foxes.
He did.
That's so many foxes.
I mean,
so many foxes.
It might not have been in one go, but still.
And we numbers were always interesting, even just for ancient historians, much less.
But that just means he caught a lot.
He caught a ton of foxes. Have you ever caught one fox, Leo? I'm guessing no. It sounds really difficult. And we have like tranquilizer guns and things we could use. How do you catch just tons and tons and tons of foxes?
The only fox I know is that channel on the TV.
Yeah, exactly. Man, it's so impressive. Anyway, please continue with the revenge story.
Yeah, it's creative points, I told you. But yeah, their revenge on his wife further angered Samson. So in revenge for the revenge of the revenge of his revenge of them giving his wife to another man, Samson slaughtered many of them before withdrawing to a cave. But he didn't do it to hide. He did it to rest.
Yeah. Yeah, this is different than Gideon.
Right, it's not Gideon. We're not talking about Gideon here where he's like cowering.
I'm happy to keep doing this. Right. I just need a couple minutes.
Yep. Like, give me a few minutes. I need a nap is what he needs. So lesson here, when it comes to conflict, things tend to escalate quickly. And I think, especially for the adults, we know that. Those who are in the middle school, high school years, you know how it is too. Things tend to escalate quickly, especially once we involve people who are not even supposed to have anything to do with it in the first place. Mm-hmm. So the best thing to do, if you have a grievance against another person, get it resolved between the two of you as soon as possible. Stop involving others. Please.
Yeah. Now, we saw the conflict escalate a little bit beyond just, like a family squabble too much. And now we see it grow even more because the Philistines aren't cool with what has happened, shockingly. And again, we talked earlier, right, about last week, somewhat jokingly, but somewhat seriously about, I wonder what it was like when Samson was a kid. And did he have... I think the Philistines are probably starting to recognize, like, this guy could be a problem for us.
Yep.
Like,
now they see it.
This is a guy who can do significant damage to us. He also is a loose cannon. And, so there's that problem. Even if he didn't have, insane strength and, the Holy Spirit had given him all of that, he might be a problem just because he's a nut job, but he can... the damage he can do to them is so much greater now. Yes. So...
They're starting to see too that the Israelite people have no control over him whatsoever as well. Yep.
So they, for I'm sure a variety of reasons, they're like, we gotta do this. But so they go and invade Judah. So now Samson's actions have not only affected his sort of family. Yep. Like, not really, but kind of sort of his family. They were kind of married, but not married because she married someone else. But anyway, but now it's affecting his own people.
Yes.
And the people of Judah are like, what do we do? Like, right. And it's funny that, because that's basically what they say. Like, the Philistines raid them and they're like, what are you doing? And it's interesting because they've been oppressed by them for 40 years at this point. So you have to assume they're probably paying regular tributes or appeasements or whatever it is to the Philistines to keep these raids from happening, right?
That's true.
Because otherwise they'd be like, well, of course this is happening.
Yep.
Like, these are the jerks that come in and raid us and steal our stuff and kill people, steal people away, whatever it is. But in this instance, we see them come in and they're like, why are you here?
Yep.
And they're like, well, they're here for Samson. So I don't know.
My cabbages.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we just continue to see it scale up.
Yep, that's right. Now, okay.
And Judah, you might have been about to say this, but Judah, not Samson's tribe.
Right.
He's
like from the tribe of Dan.
He's a Danite. And so not only are the Judahites upset, but they're like, he's not even our guy. Like, he's one of them.
It's like the Philistines going to Bismarck because someone from Williston made them angry.
Like we're all in North Dakota, but
Right.
and that's, keep in mind at this time that the tribes have not been unified at all. Obviously they don't stay unified for very long.
That's true.
David and Solomon, but at this point, like the tribes are the tribes. Like
Right.
if you're in the tribe of Dan, you're a Danite. If you're in the tribe of Judah, you're a Judahite.
Judahite.
Whatever.
Judahite.
So technically they're connected to one another, but really they're like, we had nothing to do with what that guy was doing.
What did we do to you?
Yeah.
So but okay, few things about this. I don't know if they know this and they're just being cocky or not, but in doing so, the Philistines gave Samson a national platform instead of just local platform. Like they're just concentrating on Dan by attacking the tribe of Judah. They gave Samson a national platform and risk making him a national hero instead of just being a local upstart.
Yeah.
And maybe even a local hero to his tribe. So
which is something we see a lot in ancient history,
right?
Where you overreact to something or to someone, and the response to your reaction ends up creating a much bigger problem than necessarily. And I shouldn't even say ancient history because we see it happening these days, but we often see it in ancient history because it happens like it does here, where it's like it's one person who ends up rising to much more prominence than they would have if you would have just left them alone.
That's true. That's true. So surprisingly, and as a testament to how far Israel had fallen, the people of Israel did not recognize Samson as a deliverer. So they just accepted the Philistines' domination. Another testament to how weak the people were: 3,000 men from Judah.
That's so many.
Went to capture Samson.
It's so many.
He's a loose cannon. He's getting out of control. 3,000 men go and get him. Yeah. But still another sign of how...
To be fair, though, we're about to see him kill 1,000 with a jawbone. So they were probably smart to send 3,000. Like, they're like, he can kill 1,000 of us, but 3,000, like, we'll probably be okay. Oh, man.
2 out of 3 of you will be able to grab a hold of it.
That's not bad.
So, okay. So still another sign of how disunited they were. Samson did not use the occasion to mobilize the 3,000.
Yeah, if he can kill 1,000 Philistines by himself,
right?
If he's got 3,000 soldiers behind him, imagine.
Like even if you just kill one for each of you, and I'll kill the thousands.
You can kill a half,
right?
That's true. Just for every 2 of you, you take out one Philistine.
Yep.
Now we're 2,500 Philistines.
That's true, right? So it's, but still, Then,
but now we get to the real Samson-y part.
Yay!
So they tie him up, and what we get once again, when we see Samson having these feats of strength, it's not just Samson was really strong. It's the Holy Spirit.
The Holy Spirit show.
The Holy Spirit comes upon him, and he goes nuts. He really loses it.
Yep, he does. Yay!
And you can't kill 1,000 men calmly. Like he wasn't just like, the Holy Spirit is with me as I'm calmly swinging this donkey jawbone, and like he probably was in like a crazy fit of, religious furor, I guess you could say, because the Holy Spirit had come upon him. And think of like how we think of and how we read about berserkers in back in the Viking age, and they would perform just insane feats of where they would kill crazy amounts of enemies before they would potentially either get killed or win the battle, in a way where like their own people would be scared of them because they're just in a killing frenzy, and like that. That's kind of how I picture this with Sam. Like the Holy Spirit comes upon him and he just loses it and kills 1,000 That's a lot.
That
of
is
people
a
to
lot.
kill. I don't know about you, Leo. I have killed way less than 1,000 people with a jawbone of a donkey. My number's 0. I'm scared to hear your number, but I'm guessing it's also 0.
Yep,
1,000
that's true.
is a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot. But here's
Crazy.
the thing.
What's our lesson? Do we have a lesson, or is it just he killed a bunch of people?
He killed a bunch of people. That's it. But yeah, there's nothing magical about the jawbone.
Sure.
Samson could have used something else, or maybe even his bare hands. There's nothing magical about that jawbone.
Other than it must have been a pretty strong donkey.
Yep.
Because it didn't
been
break for 1,000 men. Or maybe it broke, but enough of it remained.
Yep, enough of it. Like maybe even like pieces of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
He
that's
used
fair.
it. So yeah, it was the power of the Holy Spirit that was upon him. So note, after the battle, Samson celebrated his victory. Then he tossed the jawbone aside. Leadership lesson. I'm gonna do a GLS right now. Okay, leaders nowadays often hyper focus on a miracle that God accomplished through them, and then they build their ministries around it and claim incredible titles because of it. But God does not mean us to cling to past victories, but to put them behind us while we move on to the next task He assigns. So sometimes what we accomplished with God's help become our idols without us realizing it.
Interesting. That's good.
It is.
We he gives a little like poem to himself. 'Cause he's a little egotistical, it seems.
Right.
Like no one's there to like write his tale, so he's like, I'm gonna do it myself. And you're probably terrified of me, so you're gonna remember.
I'm gonna sing my own praises.
I did find it interesting that we think of, okay, Samson, he's just super strong or whatever. But
Right.
the description of how he breaks out of the bonds, which by the way, they're described as new ropes.
Yep.
It's like the writer of this was like, no one's going to believe that. They're going to come up with excuses like, well, they used old ropes. And
Right.
he was just able to, he's like, no. These were
They
new
were
ropes.
already frayed.
I find details like that interesting.
Yes.
But the description in verse 14 of the Spirit, it's rushing upon him is how it says it in the ESV. And it says the ropes that were on his arms became as flax that has caught fire, and his bonds melted off his hands.
Yep.
So like, I feel like based on, again, I didn't dive deep into like the original Hebrew in this or anything like that. But when I read the ESV, which is a rather literal translation,
Yes.
and I read it that way, like God's making clear, like, I'm doing this.
Yep.
Like kind of how you were saying, like this was the power of the Holy Spirit. The jawbone wasn't magical. Samson didn't, earn anything in this.
Yeah.
God's doing this to the point where like he didn't snap these ones like we see him do later.
Nope.
These melt off of him. And then he is now able to find this jawbone and do some damage. But I think that just like those small little details that I have read this story how many times in my life? A lot. And I've never stopped on that part and been like, oh, here's just another reminder from God. This is God working.
Yep.
This isn't Samson. God, like Samson's, allowing himself to be used by God, and that's great. But God is the one who should be glorified by this, not Samson. And
It was the Holy Spirit show through and through.
all right, verse 18. This he prays.
He prays.
We don't know. Samson has not referenced God
At
all up to this point, much less talked to him. Like we haven't heard him say, other than I guess like the Holy Spirit coming upon him, but we don't hear him saying like the Holy Spirit is coming upon me. Samson has had nothing to do with God in this record up to this point. Now he up to this point, as far as we know, was a faithful Nazirite. So he's doing these things. He's not drinking alcohol. He's not touching dead bodies, although he made a lot of dead bodies, but
You let go before
the lion, maybe it's only human bodies that they're supposed to, because he definitely dug some honey out of that dead lion. But anyway, so he's doing those tasks for God, as far as we understand, not cutting his hair, but he just hasn't had any interaction with God. Everything up to this point has just been Samson doing Samson's own stuff. And now we see him so thirsty that he prays.
Yep.
And he does give credit to God.
Yeah, he
in that
does.
prayer, which is cool.
But here's the thing.
Because I want to point out, we've been hard on Samson.
Yes.
We've been hard on a lot of these guys. But here he is giving credit to God in this moment. And
that's true.
we the reason we're happy to be hard on Samson is because we have so many of our own flaws. And we're like,
true.
If God can use Samson, hopefully he can use me too, because I am also very, very flawed.
Yep.
So but we get his first recorded prayer.
That's true.
Which is cool.
And one more thing. It was not until he acknowledged God's leadership over his life that he could lead others. Up until this point.
No one had followed him.
Right. No one had followed him. He was on his own. He was killing all of these guys with a jawbone on his own. He was doing these things. He was getting all of those foxes on his own. He was doing things by himself.
Yeah, he wasn't judging Israel. Again, that doesn't mean like you did bad, how we understand the context of judging at this time.
Like he led.
He was just killing stuff.
Yep, that's true. He was at this point only a killing machine.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's interesting. I did not make that connection as I was reading through it. That's cool.
So yeah, and it's only at this point that we're told that Samson led Israel for 20 years.
Yep.
Yeah. So however, there's a big but here. And the phrase "in the days of the Philistines" in verse 20 tells us that Samson did not have absolute control. He might have led, but he did not have absolute control. He did not, quote unquote, free the Israelites. The Philistines remained a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. That phrase "in the days of the Philistines" is a way of saying like the Philistines were still ruling.
Yeah.
And so he was almost like a pest, or maybe like a guerrilla leader, right? Like trying to start this.
That's right.
This revolt or whatever. But
that's right. They were rivals.
They were definitely rivals, not fans of one another.
No. You
had in your notes Yankees and Red Sox.
Yep, the Yankees and the Sox.
I feel like you put Israel would be the Yankees. I feel like it's the opposite because the Philistines are dominating right now.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So the Philistines would need to be the Yankees. The Israelites are the Red Sox. Although it's a tough one because eventually, the Israelites win too much to be the Red Sox. They're the Red Sox of like the 2000s.
That makes sense.
The long dominance of the Yankees, but now the Red Sox are going to have a run where they're the better, for a while.
That's true.
Yes, they hate each other,
but
they exist at the same time, and they're
and they're like, if I see the eyeballs, like the whites of the eyeballs of another person, like
if I see the pinstripes
of
a Philistine,
yep.
I don't think the Philistines wear pinstripes, unfortunately.
Really?
No. We know, like, you're going to get me started on nerdy history stuff again, but because of the fact that they were we have found archaeology of them, and we found like things like pottery that has been painted, and we also can make a very strong connection to the peoples.
They did not find any pinstripe jerseys.
They didn't no pinstripes yet, but we do know that they had very Greek-like armor.
That's true.
Like both in function and design, which must have been really, really weird in this area where you've been very familiar with Hittite armor and
that's true.
Babylonian armor, like what became Babylon. It existed, but it was very different. Assyrian and Hittite and Egyptian, like they were different, but they were all like similar in that area. Same with the Canaanite armor.
Which is, I guess, how the Philistines dominated, because nobody knew how to.
Absolutely would have come with different battle tactics, different styles, different everything like that. Just completely unknown to that area. And that's just so fascinating to think about for me.
That's true.
Except for they were apparently really weak to jawbones. No one, if some pharaoh in Egypt would have been like, hey, I know they're invading everywhere and decimating all of us.
Right.
But have we tried donkey jawbones? Like, let's put our weapons down.
That's true.
Tie ourselves with ropes and have jawbones everywhere. And we'll just see what happens. No one tried that.
Nope.
No one tried that.
Nope. They were none the wiser.
So we're going to meet... Well, we're not going to meet Delilah right away. We're going to get into chapter 16.
Yes.
Which is mostly about Delilah and Samson. Yes. But he meets someone else first because he makes good decisions with women. So anyway, what are we going to do here in chapter 16?
We're
Samson goes to find a prostitute.
We're going to do another alliteration on this one.
Of course you are. You can't help yourself.
I can't.
It's like 3 in a row.
It's a pastor.
It is. It's like the only class ever.
Yeah.
No matter the denomination, there is an alliteration class. in
There
pastor
is an
school.
alliteration
Yep.
class that you
I'm
have
convinced.
to ace before you.
I know my dad listens. Any other pastors listening, please let us know in the comments. Who is the professor of your alliteration class? Because I know it existed. It had to have. All right. Go ahead, Pastor Leo.
All right. So verse 1 to 3. Keyword demonstration.
Mm-hmm.
So at Gaza, Samson shows
Yeah.
off his great strength of feet. No, great feet of strength.
There you go. The strength. Well, his feet had to be strong to walk while carrying the gate of the city. So I'm okay with it. We could go either way.
It was a great strength of feet.
His feet of strength was the strength in his feet. It was amazing.
He moved the city gate and carried them all the way to the top of a hill.
And demonstration's the perfect. There was no functional reason to do that other than, just be aware of what I'm capable of.
Be aware of the fact that I can do this, and if you want to go against me, your call. All right.
And I think it's important too. We don't really know what happens during the 20 years that Samson judges. We don't get really any sort of timetable. We don't know how old he was when the events start happening. We don't know when technically we know. So he starts judging Israel once after the 1,000, but we don't know how long after this that is.
Right.
But because we don't know how long he was with Delilah.
That's true.
Before. So, but most likely he's been judging for quite a while now.
Yeah.
So the Philistines are very aware of the problem that he is, and that they can't defeat him. So they continue to be like, all right, we're gonna kill him in the morning, and he's like, are you? Watch me rip your gate off of the wall and carry it. And that, to clarify, that would have been enough. Rip the gate off and toss it.
Yep.
Gets the point across. But he's like, I'm going to carry it up to the hill because it's going to be that much worse for you to then try to get this gate back and reattach it to your city walls.
That's true.
He's just showboating at this point. Again, this is Jock Samson showing up. He's taunting them in his end zone celebration after he scores a touchdown.
He's doing the victory dance. Right in your face.
Yeah. I like to he was doing the gritty, Justin Jefferson's touchdown dance. He grittied up the hill while carrying. It was very impressive.
Yeah.
I added that part just to clarify. That's not in the Bible.
It's verse 11.
3.5.
11 on down.
All right, what's your next piece of alliteration?
Then we get to Delilah. That's verse 4 to 22.
That's not great.
Yeah. Samson now has a relationship with Delilah.
Question, and it's okay if you don't know because I didn't look it up, and I meant to, and I forgot to.
Yep.
Where's the Valley of Sorek? Do we know where that is?
No.
I mean,
I didn't.
We assume she's a Philistine because she's in close connection with the leaders of the Philistines. Could it be theoretically possible that she wasn't because the Philistines were still ruling over Israel, so they could have just been like, "We're in charge of you"? Does it ever specifically say that she is a Philistine?
Not to my knowledge. Really, she is a Philistine by birth or something like that.
Yeah.
She could be a Philistine. She could be a half.
She could be a Moabite. She could be a Moabite, Egyptian who lived. I mean, she
does have connections.
Definitely connected to the
Philistines.
Yeah.
Right.
In nation, she is almost certainly a Philistine.
Right.
Yeah.
So she is bribed by the Philistines to discover the secret behind his great strength of feet.
1,100 pieces of silver seems like a tremendous amount of silver.
It is
like a lot,
like a large sum of money.
Yeah.
Which is, if you think about it, that's how much of a threat Samson is to these guys. That they're willing to give this much money just so they could find a way to defeat him. So
and she fails them a bunch of times.
Yep.
And they're not like, okay, we're give the money back, we're gonna kill you. They're so desperate that they're like, maybe you could try a fourth time, who knows? It's also interesting. We're not gonna jump ahead at all to next week, but that 1,100 pieces of silver, we're gonna see that exact same number at the beginning of next week, and I have some questions on that, but we'll get to that next week. But they like you said, they're definitely desperate.
Yes.
And that's shown by the amount they're willing to pay and the amount of times they're willing to let her try. Because
It's not like third time's the charm. I failed. Okay, you know what? Let's give up.
Right.
No, they still wanted it.
And it's also not like they try and they fail.
Mm-hmm.
And like, Samson's probably not like, oh, just kidding. Like, you guys can go ahead and leave who are hiding there trying to kill me. He's going to go kill him.
That's true.
That's what Samson does. He kills people.
Yep.
So like, man, anyway, please continue.
Next batch.
Right. And so, but like, he should have been done with Delilah.
Mm-hmm.
She should have been done with him.
Right.
The Philistines should have been done with her, but they're
Right.
all so like caught up in their own things. Samson's, caught up with Delilah.
Mm-hmm.
Delilah's caught up with the money. The Philistines are caught up with their desperation to kill Samson. They're like, well, you're just going to keep trying.
It was a vicious cycle.
Oh, man.
But yeah, joy, fun.
And she finally gets to the real one, though.
Yes. So as a Nazirite, Samson is under a vow not to cut his hair. He knows that if he disobeys God by having his hair cut, his strength will disappear. But Delilah does it while he slept, and the Philistines overpowered him. Finally, they put out his eyes, put him in chains, make him labor in prison. But while he was there, Samson's hair begins to grow again. And then the next one, verse 23 to 31, keyword death. The Philistines have a feast to their god, Dagon. And Samson is brought into the temple for them to make fun of. The Philistines neglect to notice his hair has grown and that his strength has returned. Samson prays that God will remember him, strengthen him, and help him avenge himself on the Philistines. God does. Samson pushes down the two central temple pillars. He dies, but in his death, he kills more Philistines than in the whole of his life, and he's buried in the tomb of his father.
Which, to clarify, he's killed a lot of Philistines.
He has.
Like a lot of them.
A lot.
And so...
like thousands.
Yeah. So thousands and thousands of Philistines.
If he kicked those pillars, then his great strength of feet did return.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it real quick. Verse 27.
Mm-hmm.
The lords of the Philistines were there, which that's the important part, by the way. Like the reason this is such a blow to the Philistines, because obviously he's killed thousands of Philistines at a time before. Maybe there wasn't a lot of killing after that, right? Maybe it was he killed 1,000 of them, and both sides were like, we're going to kind of leave each other alone for a while. That's great. But the fact that the lords of the Philistines were there and died in this, that's why this is such a massive blow to the Philistines. Obviously, the large number being killed is also a big deal, but the fact that the lords were all there, like, again,
there's a reason why it was included in that one.
Yeah, and again, God was aware that this, this is how it's all going to happen. They're all going to be in this one place because they're celebrating this false god, and that's when it's going to happen. But we find out that on the roof there were like 3,000.
Yes.
So like there were probably close to that number, if not maybe even more inside.
And because usually when they count, they're just counting men.
Yeah, although that one it does say men. Yeah, it says men and women.
Oh yeah, men and women.
It does say men and women.
So yeah.
Which you're right. Almost always, in that time when you count, you would count the men.
So
and just
men and women. So might be like 6,000.
Yeah, and similarly, those were like the losers that didn't get to get into the temple. They're hanging out on the roof.
We're talking about bleachers.
Yeah, exactly. They're the going back to our Yankees, Red Sox. Those are the nosebleed seats up top, and all the fancy pants people are inside. But yeah, it's what a just crazy, incredible way that you see God.
And one
use
thing
all those
too,
things.
It says there that his hair grew back, and for those who are trying to grow their hair out, you know how long that takes. So it's not just like the next month.
Sure,
we're talking about.
Yeah.
So this has been a while.
Yep. Yeah, and he he was, I'm sure, obviously subject to the torture of his eyes being put out, but they probably weren't super kind to him after that. We know he was pulling a millstone.
Yep.
But they, I'm sure it was a pretty miserable time. But we do, we've been hard on Samson.
Yep.
But we do need to give him credit for like recognizing his mistakes.
That's true.
And calling out to God, with the understanding of like, no, I recognize now this was all you. You know, like I may have been distracted by my own desires and my own accomplishments and all these things, but it was you. So will you give me the strength
Yes.
because he's recognizing
Finally.
he can't, like,
Yep.
this isn't me. This
Right.
is you. Yeah.
Finally. So, okay, bottom line for this one.
Although, real quick.
Yeah. Huh?
There's still like a little bit of selfishness in there because he doesn't say, "So I can avenge your people," or
It's not-
He,
it's
he
not
wants
them, it's
revenge
me.
for his eyes. He specifically says, "I could be avenged for my eyes." It's like, okay, like, like, yes, it's great but like, come on, man, like. just
Again,
leave that
this
part out.
just shows how disunited they were at this point.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like, nope, I'm not talking about my people. I'm just talking about myself.
Yeah.
Because I don't care about them. They don't care about me.
Yep.
So kind of thing. So, all right. So bottom line, Samson took God and his gifts for granted. He assumed God would always give him strength. His arrogance led to his downfall, but God still used him to judge the Philistines. But the downside of his arrogance was Samson accomplished less, way less than any other judge, and did not free Israel from the oppression of their enemies. But more importantly, we must admit that we too fall into the same kind of arrogance.
Yeah.
We try to use God and the gifts that he has given us for our own personal gain. We use it to get ahead of our job, to gain approval from friends, or to show off our skills and talents in church. And even we use it to isolate other people, other Christians, because we think that we're the only ones who can practice those kinds of things. So let's adjust our view of God. He's not someone that we can manipulate or use for our own personal gain. He is God. He is our God, not our personal genie. So here are your head change, heart change, and life change for this episode. Head change is this. Know that God isn't a means to an end. Identify the areas of our lives where we act like he is. And then heart change, feel remorse over the ways we've been using God for our own selfish reasons. And then life change, view God as he is and choose to act in a way that honors him rather than uses him.
Questions for us today?
Yep. Question 1. What are some of the gifts, talents, or blessings that God's put in your life? What happens when we use them for selfish reasons? Might be something that we want to answer in the comments.
I definitely want question 2 in the comments.
You want question 2 in the
I
comments?
mean, you can do question 1 as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're great questions. But I like question 2 because I think that one could be really helpful for a lot of us who
true.
Either have done it before or
Right.
are aware of it, or maybe I'm like, I don't know how to do that.
Yep.
So, yeah. Give us question 2.
Which is question 2. What does it look like to be selfless with the things God has given us? What does it look like to not always think of yourself and use those gifts for his glory? And then number 3, what are some ways we can avoid taking God's gifts for granted?
Yep. And then next week, we're going to read Judges 17, 18, and 19. So
Yes.
17 through 19, we're going to get the story of some unnamed Levite guy. It's really interesting. I'm excited for those.
Levi, one of the brothers, the Oxio brothers.
Yes, that's exactly who it was. Shout out to John Lev. No, different guy.
Different guy?
Different guy.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I'm not like 100%
He doesn't
sure,
have a twin?
but like I'm pretty sure he's not quite old enough. But
Okay.
thank you, Pastor Leo.
You're welcome.
Thank you for walking us through Samson here.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel like Samson is often one of those guys we think of as like, it's a fun Old Testament story.
Mm-hmm.
Like to learn about as a kid or whatever.
Right.
But it's less of something that we learn and think about, like, I can learn and put in practical application in my life. And I think that's something you've done a really, really awesome job of as we've gone through Judges. And as one commenter pointed out when we were talking about Gideon, but Samson gets mentioned again in Hebrews.
Yes.
When they're listing all these people who did great things by faith. Now, he doesn't get the long mention like Abraham, but he's listed like, basically they're like, I don't have time to keep going, but here's other names. And Samson's one of them. Like, great things were accomplished because of his faith. He also was a huge bummer a lot of the time.
Which is good news because you don't have to
exactly.
be perfect.
Yep. And that's
you don't have to be like uber holy with a halo around your head just to be used by God.
Yep. God's going to use you either way. Now, again, like we talked about at the beginning, Samson's story probably didn't have to be as tragic as it was, right?
Yes.
If he had made better decisions, God would have still used him, but God knew exactly. He was still faithful enough to be used. So I've appreciated your teaching on that. I'm looking forward to next week. Join us next time again. Judges 17, 18, and 19. Read along with those so you can be ready. We love you so much, New Hope family. We're so thankful that you're here with us, and we will see you next time.
All right. For the old ones, this is for you. Why, Delilah? You know that song?
Yeah,
But anyway, ingat.
Could have gone with Hey There, Delilah for the younger people.
Oh, yeah.
See
That's
everybody.
true. Ingat.